Hey there, it's Elena with Black Sheep 303 Creative, and today we're going to talk about how to make a t-shirt design using multiple layers of heat transfer vinyl and how exactly you go about doing that. So these are my layers that you see here. I have a black layer, a white layer, a red layer, and then I have two glitter pieces. And we're going to put all of this onto one t-shirt, but I wanted to start off by showing you how to sort of piece together the design before you actually go to put it on a t-shirt, and that can really help you with placement. So I'm going to move a couple of these out of the way. I'm going to bring in this piece of parchment paper. So I would suggest when you're doing a design like this that you start off with a solid layer. So in this instance I am using a solid black layer. You can probably tell it is a Santa Mickey Mouse that I pulled apart from my clip art and turned into a cut file. Okay, so that's sort of like the background layer that we're going to put everything else on top of. And to me, that's the easiest way to go about doing a multi-layered heat transfer vinyl design. Now you can use registration marks with heat transfer vinyl. It's a little tricky. If you are interested in learning how to do that, I do go into that in great detail in my handmade holiday workshop, which is for sale on my website. But for now, I think some designs are actually easier to just sort of eyeball, and this would be one of them. So I'm kind of going from the most amount of vinyl to the least amount of vinyl. So I'm going to now layer the white on top of the black. And now I'm doing this onto the backing sheet. Because it won't stick. Like they won't stick. It won't be like permanently stuck on there. It's just kind of a placement. And then we are going to layer it onto the t-shirt sort of in the opposite way. Okay, so that's the white layer on top of the black. And now I'm going to do the red. All right, and then I've got my glitter here. Let's see. And just a reminder that glitter vinyl is the layer that always has to go down last. So you cannot layer really on top of glitter vinyl. So glitter vinyl always has to be the very last pieces that go down on your design. All right, so there is my completed design, sort of. I mean, just temporarily. And this is what we're going to transfer to the t-shirt. Okay, so I've got my setup here with my t-shirt. This is a Hanes 100% cotton gray t-shirt. And I'm going to be using my EasyPress 2. For this project, I'm actually using Caesar Easyweed with a tiny bit of Caesar glitter. So both are Caesar brand. So for the Easyweed, I'm going to be using 315 degrees Fahrenheit as the first heat setting for the Cricut EasyPress, and it's working on getting to that temperature. And then I have my t-shirt with my EasyPress mat under it, and I also have a towel just because my work surface is glass under this, so I like to give it a little extra insulation. So there's a couple things you need to do before you just go ahead and heat press. And that would be that you need to heat the shirt or whatever surface you're going to be putting heat transfer vinyl onto first for about 15 seconds, just to release any moisture that might be trapped in the fibers, because if you've got a lot of moisture in there, that can prevent the heat transfer vinyl from like adhering properly. So I'm at 280, that's probably warm enough. So I'm going to start the counter. So I'm going to do this for 20 seconds. 15 to 20 seconds should be plenty to just get any moisture out. And I'm obviously going over the area where I'm planning on putting the design, which is the center part of the t-shirt. Okay. And now another thing that we can do is find the oh, it's ready to go. So find the center of the shirt by folding it and matching up the seams. So I'm going to match up the seams along the shoulders. And then the sides to get it so we've got the center kind of aligned here, about like so. And then I'm going to press that line down the middle. I'll let that go for about 20 seconds too, just to make it easier to find the proper placement for the design on the shirt. I don't want to have it like be off to one side. Although, you know, you can eyeball it too, and it's really not that big a deal. It's not that hard to eyeball it properly, honestly. But for me, it kind of is. Okay, so it's kind of subtle, but there is a line coming down here in the center. It's a little bit tricky to see. And then my last thing that I'm going to do, after I get this kind of nice on the sheet, is take my lint roller and just go over the area that I'm putting the design, just to remove any like, you know, dog hair, for example, in my house that might be on the t-shirt. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to our layered design here, and I'm going to peel it off of the parchment paper. I got some dog hair on the back of this. Okay. And you do want to make sure that like the back of your heat transfer vinyl is free of any debris, because that could also interfere with being able to put the design down. All right, so I'm going to line them up. I think about there. Hopefully I've got them straight. And I'm going to press them down. All right, and so now all I have to do is leave that bottom layer in place and then peel off the layers that I've layered on top. And see, like I mentioned when I did this, they don't stick, so it works really well. Okay, so I've got my base layer in place. Now, what we need to do is we need to tack this down for 2 to 5 seconds only, just to get it sticking enough to peel off the backing sheet and go to the next layer. And so we're going to repeat that process for each layer until we get to the final last glitter layer, when we're going to press the entire thing for the whole time. Now we do need like a Teflon sheet. This is a Teflon sheet, or you could use parchment paper, again, to cover your design as you tack it down. So I am going to place this over here, and I'm just going to count for 2 seconds. I'm going to kind of press down to get some medium pressure. And Easyweed is a warm peel, so all right, so you can see already this has stuck down enough that we can peel away the backing sheet. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the second layer. Okay, well, our black is off a little bit. Or the white is off a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off the red. And I always have a scissors handy, so I'm going to actually take this. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. cover it with my Teflon sheet, and then again press it for like 2 to 5 seconds. And I'm just gonna count and use sort of medium pressure. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we will move on to the red layer. Might let it cool down just a little bit. I'm again gonna cut the top part off. Just for some reason, the top doesn't want to line up the way it did with the bottom originally. So I'm just gonna take that as a separate piece and eyeball it. All right, layer 3. Once again, gonna count for 5 seconds as I use medium pressure. So the reason you do this is because if you were to press every layer the full 20 seconds that you need to do to keep the heat transfer vinyl fully down, you run the risk of basically like killing the glue that's on the back of the heat transfer vinyl. Like if you do it for too long, it will evaporate or like melt into the material completely, and so you won't be able to, it won't stick basically. All right, so the glitter, as I mentioned previously, always has to be the last thing you put down. You cannot layer on top of glitter vinyl, so it has to be the last layer. Now you can layer glitter together like we're gonna do here, just not on top of each other, so just be aware of that. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Actually, glitter, come to think of it, needs to be a little bit heavy, a little bit hotter. So I'm gonna increase the temperature to 335 from 315. And I'll wait for that to heat up. Okay, it's ready to go. So again, I'm going to just tack the first layer of glitter adhesive down, or heat transfer vinyl, I should say. Again, 5 seconds. So I'm just gonna press and count, just like I have been. Okay, so Caesar glitter is a warm peel, so I wanted to let that cool off a little bit before I peeled it off. Okay, so now I'm going to line up my berries here. All right, so this is our final layer. This is the one we're going to hold the whole thing for 20 seconds. So I'm going to put my transfer sheet or my Teflon sheet down on 335 for the glitter. Okay. All right, I'm gonna let that cool down a little bit. Quick word about licensed designs like this. This is a licensed Disney character, obviously, so I do not have the rights to it, so unfortunately I cannot give you this design. You can, like I did, take a clip art like this and peel it, pick it apart to create the different colored layers to cut in vinyl for personal use only. So I'm gonna wear this t-shirt myself. I'm not gonna sell it. You are not allowed to sell items that are licensed to anyone other than yourself, obviously, unless you get written permission, and I can guarantee you Disney's not going to give you written permission. So just be aware that that's true with like things like the Grinch and some of the fun Christmas designs that you might like to work with. I'm going to peel this now. Maybe. Still pretty hot. All right. So there is my completed Santa Mickey. Pretty darn cute, if you ask me. All right, so that is basically how you do a multicolored, multi-layer heat transfer vinyl design. So you're basically just tacking the initial layers down using like the shortest amount of time you can until you get to the last layer. And the last layer is when you do the full count to really heat set all of it together. So hopefully that clears things up for you. It's really not that tough. I think eyeballing it is pretty easy, although obviously you can get off a little bit. But you know, it's handmade and that's going to happen, so I think embrace it. If you're interested in learning about registration marks with heat transfer vinyl, which is possible, like I mentioned, I do go into that in quite a bit of detail in Project 3 in my Handmade Holiday Workshop, which is for sale on my website, so you could check that out as well. Thank you so much. Hope you have an amazing holiday season, and I will see you in 2022.